Hi, so here is the Big Kahuna. This is puzzle 4, and there are going to be 7 answers. And remember, you're expected, once you find the answers, you're going to use that code cracker to match the answers to the letters. And then you're going to unscramble those letters to find the hobby. Okay, so the first of puzzle 4, which is on that first slide, it says, it's question A. List the first digit to the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. So yes, this is something you can Google. You may have also seen it in my room in like purple sparkly letters. But the answer, according to this famous book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is 42. So the first digit is 4. So that is your first answer. Okay? And I feel like I should be writing this on a separate piece of paper to try to keep track of it, so I will. So our first letter, or first answer, and I'm going to write this on a notebook, is A is 4. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this aside for now, and I'll show you at the end. Okay, so let's go to B. So now I have B. And I'm going to scroll to the next. Okay, so B says there are 416 stones in the quad modeled by S of x equals 2x squared minus 6x. X represents the number of rows of stones. How many rows are there? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set this equation to 416. So let's go for it. I have 2x squared minus 6x, and that's going to equal 416. And I'm going to start solving it. So if I look at this, I'm going to move this. I want to get this in standard form. So I'm going to move 416 to the left. And I'm going to set it to 0. Okay. And then I can see they're all even numbers, so I am going to factor out a 2. Okay, so 2, put it aside. And remember, whatever you factor out is not really, it's not going to be a solution. So don't worry about it for now. But you will realize that that's not going to be a solution. It's a factor, but not a solution. Or factors are not solutions. They're just ways to break it apart. And then what's left over is going to be x squared, because I'm going to divide it out, minus 3x, minus, well, half of 400 is 200, half of 16 is 8, so I'm going to end up with 208 equals 0. Now I can do the product sum game. My advice, put factors, you can even Google it, factor pairs of 208, and you're going to try to see which ones are going to be, when you combine them, are going to be 3 apart. So I did that because I did not sit here and factor everything out, right? I'm going to get to negative 208, combine to negative 3. When I Googled it, I ended up with lots of factors. And I want, one of them has to be negative, one has to be positive, and the dark side wins. So when I combine these two, I get negative 3. So those are my 2 factors. So I'm going to rewrite this now. X minus 16 and x plus 13 equals 0. And now I'm going to find my solution. Set that all to 0. So remember, your factor, whatever you factored out, is again not going to be an answer, ever a solution. X minus 16. So I have a positive solution so far of 16. And x plus 13 equals 0. And I have a negative solution of negative 13. Let's rewrite this in a solution set. X equals the set of negative 13 and 16. Okay. And so remember, the question is asking, how many rows are there? So you're solving for x. You're finding one of the solutions of x that is positive. Can you have negative 13 rows? You can't. So the answer, then, the positive solution is 16. So that means there are 16 rows. Okay, and then here, I'm going to show you how I'm kind of collecting my, so A was 4, so B, now we have 16. Okay, and I'm even going to add 16 rows just so I'm clear. Okay, so for C, I'm going to erase this. So C says we have an area of a quad is 12,000 square feet. The length is 20 feet greater than the width, modeled by that function, w squared plus 20. Tell you what's the width. Okay, so let's rewrite this. W squared W squared plus 20W equals 0. Well, sure, but now it says if that is representing that equation, I'm actually going to set this equal to, because I have information that it's equal to 12,000 square feet. Okay, so I'm going to set it to 12,000, and now I'm going to factor it. So I'm going to subtract from both sides. Okay, subtract 12 from both sides, and I'm going to keep it in standard form. So W squared plus 20W minus 12,000, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. Okay, so it seems like a really unwieldy big number to work with, but and you can go ahead and Google like what are all the factor pairs of 12,000. That's fine. But if you think about what's maybe the one that common sense might tell you, I think of 12,000 and I see 20 there, and I automatically want to break this apart into 100 and 120. Now, what's going to be the larger factor? Let's see. Well, it's a positive 20, so they, oops, well, okay. The dark side loses here, okay? But one factor has to be negative, but the middle term is positive, so it's got to be the larger factor is going to be positive. So let's write this in the correct format. So I have W minus 100, W plus 120 equals 0. And I'm going to start taking some shortcuts. So I could set these equal to 0, but I already know that my two solutions are going to be 100. And because it's always going to be the opposite of your factor, and W is going to equal negative 120. Factor, I'll use W. I always want to do X though, is negative 120 and 100. So remember, the question is asking about, let's see, what is the width? So the width has to be positive. So in essence, it's asking, well, what's the positive solution? And that is 100. A lot of times in algebra and like real world applications, it's going to be asking, what is the positive solution? So the width is 100, okay? So I'm going to add this to my little tally sheet. Hopefully you're keeping some kind of tally sheet too. So the answer to C is 100 feet. Okay. Now let's go on to the next one. And let's see, it is D. And D says, let's see, we just want to find a positive solution. So we have this, 0 equals, was that 1/3 x squared minus 3. Okay, so it's going to sounds kind of strange, but I like writing the 0 on that side. Okay, so now I'm going to, I want to move my 3 over to that side because I don't have a bx term. So I'm going to move my c over. So 1/3 x squared, I'm going to add 3 equals 3. And then I have this coefficient of 1/3 that then I want to get rid of by dividing out my fraction. Remember I'll show it to you this way, but that's one way, right? Divided by 1/3, right? But remember, when you divide a fraction, you're always divide fraction equals multiply the reciprocal. Okay, so that's going to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to erase that. And if that's the rule, then I'm going to multiply. So notice what I'm doing. I'm actually going to multiply both sides by, not 3 over 3, by 3 over 1. I'm going to do the same over here. So 3 times 3 over 1. Okay, well, I know that's the whole point, is to get rid of my coefficient that's a fraction. So I'm going to end up with x squared equals, well, 3 times 3 is 9. Isn't that handy? Take the square root of both. X equals positive or negative 3. Okay, and what is it asking? It's find the positive solution. So x equals 3 is the answer to letter D. Okay, so D on my little solution page here, D is, what did we say, 3. That's the positive solution. Okay, we're almost done. So if I go to E, E says find the negative solution. Okay, so hopefully you're getting a little faster here. I have 18 equals 3x squared plus 15x. I hope I copied that down right. Is that G? I mean E? Yeah, okay, terrific. Okay, so for E, I am going to write this in standard form. I'm going to subtract 18 from both sides. And then that'll automatically get this into standard form. So I'm going to end up with 3x squared plus 15x minus 18 equals 0. I'm setting it to 0. I'm going to factor out, different color. I'm going to factor out a 3 because I see that 3 goes into all of these. What do I have left over? I have x squared after I divide it out plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. 3 is not going to be a factor or a solution, I should say. It is a factor, but it's not a solution. And I'm going to do the product sum game to negative 6, so combine to negative 6. And then combine to 5, multiply to negative 6, I meant. Okay, and I'm going to end up with, let's see, I need to have one negative number. Well, how about 6? If I do 6 plus 1, it's got to be positive. So it looks like I'm going to have positive 6 and negative 1. I combine them to 5. Great. I'm going to end up with x plus 6 and x minus 1 equals 0. I can already tell my solutions are going to be x is equal to negative 6 and x is equal to 1. Solution set, negative 6 comma 1. And what is it actually asking? E is asking, what's the negative solution? Oh, well, it's negative 6. Okay, so that's my winner. So I'm going to add that to my list here. E is negative 6. Okay. Oh, I have 2 more. Hang in there. So if I look at F, okay. So I'm going to divide a trinomial, and you're going to notice it is not factorable. And then I'm going to put it over. I'm going to leave me some space because I want to show some work. This is not factorable as is. I cannot find a greatest common factor. I have to do the slide and divide. Sorry, not my favorite thing either. So I'm going to show my work. I'm going to slide, multiply, getting rid of that coefficient equals 6. Remember, I got that from multiplying these two. When I factor this trinomial out, I'm going to end up with, let's see, 2 and 3. Combine to 6, sorry, multiply to 6, combine to 5. So that's going to be 2 and 3. Okay, so now I'm going to write that. X plus 2, x plus 3. But remember, I am not done because I need to, I'll do it in a different color, because I need to give back that 2. So over 2, and I'm going to rewrite this. Well, 2 over 2 is 1, so I'm going to end up with x plus 1. And then I have 3 over 2, which is as simplified as it gets fraction-wise. So I'm going to move that denominator in front of the x. So this is the slide and divide. Okay. So if you see this now, I'm multiplying this, which is a factored form of that, over x plus 1. And remember, if you have the same factor over the same factor, you divide them, it becomes 1. So all you're left with is 2x plus 3. That is the answer. That's the only factor remaining. Okay, so I'm going to add that. We're almost there to my f. So f is 2x plus 3. And now I have g. Okay. And then I will be almost done, really almost done. Okay. So for how many, which time? Oh, we got like 16 minutes. Okay. So we have g. And this is, let's see, what does it say? Factor 4x squared minus 36x equals 0. And what does it tell me to do? Oh, it just says to factor it. Okay, so we're not solving this. This is just factoring. Okay, so no, don't try to solve it. So when we factor something, well, let's find the greatest common factor, which is going to be 4 goes into both sides, both terms, and so does x. So take that, put it aside, and then what's going to be left over? Well, I'm going to have an x left over there, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. I'm going to subtract 9, and then x over x is just, well, 1. Okay, so that's actually the factored form. That's the answer, 4x times x minus 9. So again, I'm just factoring it. So I'm going to add this to my list. Okay, so g, 4x, and x minus 9. Okay, so you're going to take, when you take all of these answers now, you are going to use that code cracker to find, here, I'll zoom out, what the what numbers these match. So check to make sure you have the right numbers. And then I will just quickly show you what the answers are without looking at the code cracker. Okay, so I have 4 is D. We have 16 is W. We have 100 feet is I. We have 3 R. We have E is -6, which on the code cracker is N, and you probably see it right now. And then F is equal to G. Last but not least, this factor form is A. And if you look at these letters and you scramble them out, or I should say unscramble them, you should see that drawing is the hobby. Okay, so once you enter that in, you're going to put all your clues together and find the Magus's identity. Good luck.